Hey, welcome back to Lee Writing on YouTube. This is kind of a follow-up video to a tutorial video I made a couple months ago about setting margins in a screenplay. In that video I talked about how to set the left margin for a screenplay if you're using a word processing document. In word processing documents like Microsoft Word, it's normal to have 1 inch on the left to top, right, and bottom. I'll show you right here. Layout, margins, see 1 inch on all sides. But if you're writing a screenplay in a word processing document, you need to have 1.5 inches on the left side. So the easiest way to make that happen, well, you can do this, where you have the 2 arrows showing here, and then you drag it. That would be 1.5, like that. Or, let me just get that back. Or an easier way to do it, just go to margins, custom margins, go to the left and put 1.5, and it'll set it up like that. Oh yeah, okay. I pasted this in as an example, so it messed that up a little bit. I'll just fix that really quick. This text that you see is just a sample that I pasted in from one of my other screenplays. Also, you see how the dialogue goes all the way across the page? That's not what you want, and we're going to talk about that in this video. Because in the last video I only talked about the left margin, but in this video I want to focus more on setting the custom margins for the character name, the parenthetical, and the dialogue, because it's going to have a different set of margins than the action. Okay, so when you look at up here, fade in, slug line, action, all of this, it's going to be normal. It can go across the page. Even the slug line can go across the page if you have a bigger slug line, which you shouldn't, but if you happen to have a bigger slug line, it can go across the page up until the 1 inch on the right side. And same with the action. It can go across the page. Also, make sure you have a Courier font. Or Courier New. You don't want to have Arial. That's not really, some people use Arial, but the standard is Courier. So Courier is better. Okay, so 1.5 inches, 1 inch. Oh yeah, top, right, and bottom. That's still 1 inch on each side. The only one that's different is 1.5 inch on the left side. So 1.5, 1, 1, and 1. Okay. I think you get that. Pretty straightforward. Now let's talk about the character parenthetical dialogue. Okay, obviously you don't want it to look like this. The character who's speaking, and they're speaking to Alucard, and this is their dialogue. Now you might think that, oh, just use Control E and put it in the center. Now technically you could do that, but you want to make sure it's at the right margin, just to be consistent. Now, here are the basic standards for the margins here. The character name has to be 3.5 inches from the left side of the page. So if this is already 1.5 inches, then we need to add another 2 inches to this. So what would add another 2 inches is just to go to 1 and 2 like that. So you'd basically click here and drag this all the way to the 2, and now that's 3.5 inches because we already have 1.5 inch here, and now you have to add another 2 inches there, so that's 3.5 inches. So there's the character name at 3.5 inches. Now the parenthetical has to be 3 inches from the left, not 3.5, 3. So you go down 1/2 inch. So once again, you highlight, and then you drag, highlight, and then you click on this bottom part, drag it to this right here. This is the 3 inch mark because this is already 1.5 inches. That's another inch, and that's another 1/2 inch, and that all adds up to 3 inches. So you got that there. Okay, very straightforward. Now we get to the tricky stuff, the dialogue, because now you have to worry about setting it on both sides. And by the way, if the parenthetical should not go too long, have like one thing listed, because you can still type a bunch of stuff and it'll go across the page. You want to try to avoid that from happening. The best rule of thumb is to have it go 3 inches from the right as well, but we're not going to get into that today. We'll just leave it like that. Let's talk about dialogue. So you highlight the dialogue. Now, the rule is that it has to be 2.5 inches from the left side. So you have 3.5, 3, and then 2.5, like that. Click on that. Drag it to the 1, because, again, 1.5 inch, and then you add another inch, that's 2.5 inches. So now you have 2.5 inches for the dialogue on the left side. However, we got a problem here because the right, it's still going all the way over there. So what we want to do is have it 2.5 inches from the right as well as the left. So we click on this little right indent arrow here, and we want to bring it, it's already an inch from the right, so we want to bring it another 1.5 inches from that. So we drag it, that's 2, and then there's 2.5, like that. So now it's 2.5 inches from the right, 2.5 inches from the left. And you have parenthetical, which is 3 inches from the left, and then the character name, 3.5 inches. Okay. So, oh yeah, by the way, if you want to do this 3 inches from the right, you can do that as well. So you have 1 inch, 2 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, like that. So just in case you had, because you know how sometimes when you write parentheticals, you might want to add something like talking in Spanish or something, and then it breaks like that. I don't like to have too much in the parenthetical, but, in case you do, make sure you have the margin 3 inches from the right as well as the left for the parenthetical. Well, this should be fun. Okay, so now that you have that, click Save. Just make sure it's in there. Now that you have that, the trick is to do it for every single time you have character dialogue. Now, the easiest way to do that is just click on, let's say you want to center this really fast. Well, just do this. Highlight this up here, which is already formatted. Click the Format Painter button. And now highlight this and watch what happens. Boom. It's already done for you. Now do the same thing here. Well, you can just click into it. You don't have to highlight this. Just click into that. Click the Format Painter. And then highlight this. Boom. Once again. Boom. And it does it all for you. So you don't have to, keep setting the margins each time you write dialogue. You can just copy. It's basically copying the format from one area to another area. So you don't have to just set them all each time. That's the easiest way to do it. And now, of course, when you want to go back, click in there, and then it goes back like that. What I used to do before I had Final Draft was I would just write out everything, with the 1.5 inch, 1 inch, even the dialogue, and then once I was finished with the screenplay, I'd go through it and then format paint the entire thing, with the right margins for all the dialogue and the characters and so forth. I mean, it's the best way to do it for me anyway. There might be a quicker way with hotkeys, to set the margins faster, but this is the way I know how to do it, using the Format Painter. Just, you click on something that's already formatted properly, you click on Format Paint, and then you highlight the thing that you want to format, and then it copies the format of the other thing, so you don't have to do it yourself. It's really a cool tool. And if you want to do it multiple times, you would double click, and then you can just keep highlighting things. You can just go ahead and keep highlighting things until you're done using it. But if you only click it one time, then it only works one time. And you see, then it goes away. But if you double click, then it stays like that. So double click keeps it on. One click does it one time. Okay, so let's recap on the margins. 1.5 inch from the left, 1 inch from the right, 1 inch from the top, 1 inch from the bottom. That's how you set up the screenplay in a word processing document. Now, all this can stay the same for margins, action, slug line, and so forth. Now, character name, 3.5 inches from the left. Parenthetical, 3 inches from the left, 3 inches from the right. Dialogue, 2.5 inches from the left, and 2.5 inches from the right. Okay? That's all there is to it. I hope this was educational. Alright, subscribe, and I'll try to get out some more videos. Alright, thanks.